Hello and welcome back to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Brett Duville, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, a man who has the honor of speaking to the Knight of the Imperial Dragon, the Archmage of Vardenfell, and the Master of the Fighters Guild all at once.
Tim Longo. However, I've done none of those things.
That's right. But you have the honor of speaking.
Oh, you are the speaker. Oh, right.
Yes, you're speaking to the person who is this thing.
In real world.
Yes, it's like the Three Musketeers, scene where, he's like, I've been ordered to find the secret order of the Jesuits. Or the leader of the secret order of the Jesuits, and then they say, and that's a problem because I am the secret leader or leader of the secret order of the Jesuits, or whatever he says. So yeah, I am the I have finished 3 faction quest lines.
Say that one more time. So you're the Fighters Guild Master. I know that one.
Fighters Guild Master. I am the Archmage.
Oh, so that's
the Mages Guild.
That's the Mage Guild. Okay, Master.
Yeah. And I'm the Knight of the Imperial Dragon, which is the head of the Imperial Legion in Vardenfell.
That's so funny that you can become the head. I feel like maybe they shouldn't let one person be the head of all of these things.
I've got a lot of... I'm consolidating my power.
Yeah, I think you're going to get assassinated by the Morag Tong very shortly. I'm going to have a rift.
Well, I'm going to do that next. I'm gonna go do the Thieves Guild and the Assassins Guild next, because why not?
Yeah,
it is wild. It is a game where you can just do everything. I guess
I don't know how I feel about that.
Technically, there's one way.
You can't join the Dark Brotherhood and the Morag Tong, though, I would assume.
No, but I don't think you can join the Dark Brotherhood in this game.
Is that a future quest line?
Yeah, I think that's Oblivion and forward, because the the Morag Tong rather are the old guard, right? And they're kind of and I think they're maybe Vardenfell specific as well. So that's just
I wonder if they're not in the future ones. Interesting. So there's no good assassins from here on out? I
don't think so. No,
I mean, I know that's
an oxymoron. I don't actually know. I mean, I don't normally do the assassination stuff in these games, so I don't know for sure. But I'll just go ahead.
I think I'm an assassin from here on out. Actually, this whole ranger thing that I usually am, I think I'm turning over a new leaf. I usually play rangers and everything, but now it's all about assassin. Good assassinations.
Yeah, the good kind.
I mean, they're honorable. What do they say? Honorable and sanctioned.
Right.
And I mean, I'll tell some of the stories, but I definitely think this last session, I was definitely going after some bad folks. So it felt the most. I'm not just rolling up on somebody in a bar in a tavern and killing them in the middle of the tavern. Now I can tell these people were bad. So at least it feels a little, but I am one step. My next rank is master. So I actually have one more quest, I think, to do before I'm master of the Morag Tong.
Nice. Typically for me, that has involved removing the old leader of the of the guilds that I'm ahead of.
Oh, no.
I have had to kill the champion of the Fighters Guild. We should probably talk about that one, because that one was actually kind of interesting. And then the other two, I was challenged to duels by the respective leads of those two guilds. So I had to go to the arena.
In Vivec?
And Vivec, and find my way to the actual arena, which was kind of a pain. Those wasteworks are really...
I've memorized it by now, but
I know how to... Now I know how to do it, but I get Vivec generally, but actually getting to the actual arena... Like, I was up looking down into it. I could see the person running around down there, like he aggroed to me. And I'm like, I just need to hop over this thing and jump down into there and come get you.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, I see some doors, so I got to go find my way to get to those doors.
Like the clearly or something,
Yeah, I had to, but it was like those multi-level mid wasteworks or whatever. So I was just like, oh, okay, I have to go down this staircase, and I don't know. Anyway, it was a whole thing.
They're not well designed, no.
No, it's very hard to. I mean, once you kind of get the vibe, you can sort of figure it out, but some of them have more levels than others, and I mean, it's just always.
Well, it's the problem. I mean, I've spent too much time in that city because that's basically my home base because of the Morag. But I mean, the cantons are symmetrical, right? And then so they've done the worst. So a little bit of soapbox tirade on level design.
Yes.
They've done the worst of both worlds. They've made reusable modular buildings in these cantons that they have used for all of them that are symmetrical. So landmarking is tricky. And then within each of them, they've done custom things as well. So like a door will sometimes be where it is. And then in another canton, it's not there because you're in a different one and you don't remember which one like which one had that door in this particular place that you were looking for, etc. So it's like they didn't even leverage the symmetry of using it. They actually broke their own symmetry. So it's like there's good things about it, but generally it's a nightmare of a city to. It's like one of the worst cities I've ever been in.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, I don't know if it was meant to evoke like Kowloon's walled city or something like that.
Oh, it's got a good feel. Yeah. I mean, I think, no, that's true. I just mean from an architect, like from a flow perspective, but from like
the flow is really
impressive. It's an impressive like, architectural city for sure. I mean,
every time I had to go to the Mages Guild there, well, not the Mages Guild so much because I could teleport into there and teleport back out, but going to the Fighters Guild there, before I realized I could teleport in, I did a bunch of stuff for Vivec, and it's like you have to climb all the way to the top of that foreign quarter. And the first time I was looking for it, I didn't even realize that there was a door in that sort of wider, opening. So I was like, oh, this, and I just didn't see it. I didn't read it properly because it looked kind of lower, and I was just like, oh, well, these don't go anywhere. These other doors, I thought it was, Anyway, so I got very lost, but then it was like, okay, I got to come out and I got to go turn around, go 90 degrees around the building, find another ramp down, go another 90 degrees around the building, find another ramp down, and then go another 90 degrees around the building to actually get to the bridge to get out of this place. And it was just every time. Like, I mean, I got really good at it later, but now I know most of the places pretty well, but at the time, rough.
So
I've seen a lot.
So with the arena, you're basically just in there dueling these guys.
Yeah, I just show up. They come charging at me, and I kill them with my axe.
You actually kill them? Like it's a duel to the death?
Yes.
Oh, geez. I thought you meant like a yielding situation.
Nope. You just kill them and you loot their bodies.
Oh my God, that's gruesome! Wow.
You take the Archmage's staff. You take the
what?
There's been at the end of the Imperial Legion quest line. You've been finding like these artifacts of the Legion, which magical armor and a magical.
Oh, the Morag has that too.
Yeah, there's a it's the Lord's Mail, I think it's called, and Chrysanthemir. I can't remember what the sword is called. Which have all these bonuses and things like that, and I think the longsword is like a great sword, and it's so a two-handed sword. So I haven't been using it much because I'm still working on my block. Get that block up, but I think basically when you're using it, you're healing yourself and stuff. Like it does fortifies on your strength, and like as you're using it, you're getting more powerful. Which was true of the fight with him. Like he was starting to hit me harder and harder when I defeated him with my axe. So.
So as a quick side to the Fighters Guild, I was talking to a colleague of ours at work today, Greg Knight, and who you may remember this is one of his favorite games.
I did not know that, so I could not remember it.
So anyway, he just because we were talking about it in a team meeting recently, that's what I meant. But anyway, he remembered his version of the Fighters Guild because he had found, I was going to ask you about this now that you're done. He had found an ex-leader. He said he remembers this as one of his favorite gaming memories because he had found the ex-leader of the Fighters Guild who was hiding out from a corrupt fighters guild and the leader who is currently there. And so Greg said he had made it his mission, his self-proclaimed mission. Nobody told him to do this, to basically return this guy to power who was, and you
can't do that. I don't think, but
I don't know. It's whatever, 20 years for him that he's played, since he played it. So maybe he's misremembering, but he just remembers sort of like the fact that he accidentally found this guy in hiding, and then eventually takes over and kills the corrupt leader of the Fighters Guild. Yeah. So I was wondering, I was going to ask you if you had come upon, like, did the guy that you replaced, was he corrupt? Or did you?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, he was. So actually, this is the thing I mentioned to you over the weekend, is that I had a good moment in this game with the Fighters Guild quest line where I realized that, so they were basically, when you get to a certain point, there are two leaders you can talk to for quests. One is the champion, the master of the guild, and the other is a guy who runs one of the other fighters guilds and who's been giving you quests right along. If you talk to the actual master of the house, he says, okay, what I need you to do for me, and I actually looked up how this played out once I finished it. I need you to go kill all the leaders of the Thieves Guild. So he's like, you need to go to these 4 Thieves Guild locations and kill their leaders.
What?
Yeah. The other guy, is the one who's basically like, the leaders of the Fighters Guild are corrupt. You need to take out his lieutenants, and that's like your first quest towards taking out the main guy. So you go and you kill these 2 other Fighters Guild like house masters, individual house leaders, and then go, and your final mission is to go and confront the master. And
he's the guy that gives you the ones to take out the master. Is he in the same location or a different location?
No, he's in a different location. So he's in Aldrun, and the bad ones are in Balmora and Vivec, which is also where the house master is. So you're basically going, you go to this guy and he's giving you these quests to do, and then at some point he's just like, this guild is really messed up. And that was the point at which I realized that those other 2 leaders had given me a lot of quests where I could go and actually basically pay people to disappear. Like, I didn't have to kill everybody in their quests. And the guy who was giving me who was the one who was like, yeah, it's corrupt. He was like sending me to kill like necromancers. Nobody likes those guys. So it was a very different, it had a very different tenor to it. So when I reflected back on it, I was like, oh, this guy's been giving me the real quests, like, the actual, they're all real quests, but the ones he sent me on were like the good quests, the good version of what the Fighters Guild is doing, enforcing some kind of law and, being heroes to take out the evil, I don't know, necromancers and whatever. And the other ones were like taking out some of their, enemies and stuff, and so it was interesting. It was an interesting thing to reflect on at that point. Like, oh yeah, these folks have sent me on some shady missions that I was not entirely comfortable with early on too. Like, some of my first missions were for, I forget her name. It starts with an E, but the one Idir, I think, is her name in Balmora, and one of those was like, go take care of this person. And I went and talked to that person, and they were like, oh, they're just happy because I won't join their guild. If you pay me money, I'll disappear, or whatever, something along those lines. And that was 60 hours ago, so I can't really tell you what he said, but it was, it's something along those lines of just like, if you give me some money, this doesn't have to be a thing where I die or you die. This could just be a thing where I'm not here anymore.
You had to talk to him first, though, right? To do that?
Yeah, although in most cases you want to talk to the folks anyway, because that you might provoke them to attack you, and therefore, you're not. Yeah. And there were other stuff too. There's like, the egg mine type stuff. There were other things to do. Those sorts of things where you just go to a place and you recover some treasure that somebody lost or whatever. And then that just sort of standard quest stuff. Most of the quests in these quest lines have not themselves been individually super interesting.
Yeah. How did you find the good, like?
Well, I was always just leveling up all the things. Like, I would go and because you just talk to the masters of each.
So you go to each town that has a guild, and you talk.
Correct.
To them.
Yeah, and you talk to them. Somebody in there will say, "Oh, if you want, orders, then you go talk to this person, and you go talk to that person." And they'll send you around to do different stuff. So it's very much just like as you rise through the ranks, you run out of stuff to do for Balmora, and they'll say, well, you should check in Eldrin and Vivec, to see if they have anything for you, and Sadrith Mora maybe as well. Like you should check these other places to see if they have anything to for you to do, and that's your opportunity to kind of like keep going, if you want, because you can do a few things, but you're not going to advance super far if you don't branch out and do them for all of them. You'll get like 3 ranks in or something like that out of, I don't know, 8, 3 ranks in out of 8 maybe. Guessing, I mean, just rough numbers, but so that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to sort of reflect on that a little bit. Like when he was telling me they were corrupt, I was like, well, how do I trust you? And then I was like thinking about what those folks had me do, and I was like, oh yeah, I can see that. See that.
Yeah.
And apparently if you choose the other way to go kill the thieves guilds, which those are tough. Like I actually went and was doing one of them and I got just totally wiped. And afterwards I was like, well, maybe I'll level up and come back and do this. And that's when I discovered the other quest line.
Yeah.
But if you do those things, he basically is like, well, I thought they'd kill you, but now I'll kill you, and so you end up fighting anyway. So that one only ends in the death of the corrupt guild master. It's just what you do along the way.
So yeah. So I wonder if you found this guy Greg's talking about, or maybe he's just misremembering, or if he's like.
I did not find him, but I can believe that guy was out there.
Yeah, that he's out there someplace and hiding out. Yeah, it's pretty cool that's just like a breadcrumb that's put there. That supports a likely found version of the Fighters Guild. That right. It's like no matter what order you do things in, you could find him early or you could find him afterwards and kind of put 2 and 2 together. I wonder if you find him after you've become master, if he says something different. So I don't know. It's just a kind of a fascinating
they often do.
Case study.
They often do.
Yeah. And it's funny because every time it's so weird how different our games are, because I'm basically like playing a linear RPG, right? Kind of like I definitely get distracted sometimes when I'm on my way to an assassination and I see something interesting. Like I found this, I guess it was a Daedric temple or something, because there were some weird creatures. Like this guy was on fire and
Atronach. I was born under the sign of the Atronach, so
it's like a fire dude. Like they're flaming and they have like weird armor on and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. So
the flame sort of comes out through the armor. They couldn't really fully do it back then. The one in Skyrim I think looks a lot better from that standpoint. Like it's literally just flames in a suit of armor. Whereas back then it was they had to had to have a polygonal model underneath with texture on it to make it work. But
it was pretty. I mean, I'd say it's pretty. I saw him from afar and it was like walking around. I was like, oh, what's over there? And so it was. I think they did a good job for that era. But so I get distracted. But largely, it's like I don't even know if you can get other Morag Tong quests from anybody else, because I tried at least at Balmora, but I guess I should go to the other guilds. But I'm about done, so I don't know, and I don't think I'm going to be replaced. I don't know what's going to happen, because there's this whole. Like one cool thing about it is I mentioned the Black Hand, right? They call themselves the Black Hand, and then there's Milana. It must be one of the gods that is the god of assassination or something, and she's called the Night Mother. And
yes, the Night Mother.
They have a series.
She makes an appearance in Skyrim.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The actual Night Mother does?
Yes.
Oh, what the heck? Okay. Now I want to play Skyrim. No, I'm not sure I do actually, but or that I will. But and so now the last I guess a little spoiler for you, unless you don't want me to tell you, but the last quest has to do with getting essentially, I think, what did they call them? I think I wrote it down. There's like 7 artifacts. Is it there? No, I guess I didn't write down how they talked about it. There's 7 artifacts.
Name is Severa Magia?
Sanguine, something about this, the 7 sanguine artifacts or something.
Oh, the sanguine items. Yes, there's in fact 26.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was in the 20s. Yeah, you're right. So basically, the leader of the Dark Brotherhood has one of them, and the Dark Brotherhood, who obviously is the dark version of assassins, has seems like they're claiming ownership over the artifacts because they think they're the rightful. My interpretation of it is they think they're the rightful assassins that should inherit, the Night Mother's glory. Right. But the Morag Tong is taking that back, and the guild leader that I'm talking to, has one of them already, and he talks about the one he had. I forget which one he has, and then I'm supposed to go get this belt from the Dark Brotherhood leader to bring it back to him as my final quest. Now that I've killed, I don't know, 30 people for him. It's probably not that many, but it's like 2 or 3, 2 per writ, or per quest line. So it's probably 20 or so. But anyway, yeah. So it's kind of neat because there's just so, it's just still impressive to me that there are so many factions. In the grand scheme of things, there's so many factions in one game. They each have their own chain. Occasionally they cross over, and then each of them has their own sort of history, for lack of a better term, and like backstory, where you're like, it feels a little more seated in the world in a cool way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, you said there was one part.
So the Night Mother in Skyrim, she's basically a corpse, and she like whispers to you. If you can talk to her. I remember seeing, I was like, I don't know if this is true, so I was just looking it up. But I remember seeing it in a team meeting, and everybody knew who the Night Mother was, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But
starts with an M. Her name starts with an M, right? Mel
Magia is what you're.
No, it's got an L in it, I think. I just didn't write it down in the right spelling. But anyway, Melaga, well, maybe the L's silent. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically there comes a point where you can, I think the end of that quest line in Skyrim is that you can recover the Night Mother's relic, body, and she's in this sarcophagus, and you can have her implanted in the Dark Brotherhood base, and then she's just there.
What?
And that's how that quest line, I think, ends, because they've the Dark Brotherhood have strayed from their original purpose, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't play the assassin. I want a good, sturdy. I'm going to go out and fight for what's right as a member of the Imperial Legion or whatever.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, sometimes some folks need to be taken out in a little bit of a covert way. That's all I'm saying.
You've been really, really covert, as I've understood it. Going in, aggroing, having 6 people come after you, and stepping in and out of a door. I'm just going to step outside for a moment and heal up. Step back in.
I'm here. Legitimate strategy that I've used. Oh my God, I can't wait to say this. So the last one, I'll tell. I mean, we can do them in order or whatever. I want to hear more about your stuff too. But the last one, which was the hardest one, was killing these brothers. Which is what I wanted to ask you about, because you said why were you going after the Kamanatong? Was that related to
that was the Imperial Legion. There was a dude in the Imperial Legion, the first fort, Moonmoth.
Yeah.
Where if you talk to him, he's like, you should create a bloodbath in the Kamanatong and Balmora. And he's like, there are these 5 people, the pawnbroker, they all have names. And because of some corruption with the mayor or something, I never talked to that guy, so who knows. I did eventually get to a point where I could kill them, and I got some cool weapon for it that I'm sure I've long sold because I don't remember what it was called. And yeah, so that's what I did and why I did it.
So this is I think this is a Thieves Guild thing, because I did end up having to look this one up because I was like, they couldn't be in here because it was like a high level lock that I couldn't pick. I did end up using. I found the key to get inside. Is how I ended up getting in. But I was like, this doesn't. They've never had an assassination behind a locked door before. So I was like, this couldn't be it. And it felt like I was kind of breaking the law, or breaking, which they didn't usually. I mean, I know I'm killing people, but they didn't usually have this happen.
Well, you have a writ.
I have a writ, right? It's official.
The law says it's fine.
Yeah, the law says
you're good.
But anyway, so but then I think when I looked it up, there was something about these same individuals are part of because they're members of the Kamanatong and they're part of the Thieves Guild quest line then, which I couldn't remember if you had done any of those. So I'm wondering, my hope and what I'm wondering about if it's true, it's kind of cool, is that in this particular case, the two faction quest lines would converge,
right.
And both of them would actually take out the same people. And so there's these two brothers in the basement of this estate manor on a plantation, which I didn't even know there were plantations in this game, which is like,
there are northeast of Pelagiad,
and north of Vivec City too, and
yep.
And I was like,
that's the same.
Oh, that's the same place, yeah. And I was like, what? What? And it's rough. Like,
yes, it is.
How did they get? Who was approving this stuff? I was like, wow. And so when I got there and you see the like Dren, it's the Dren plantation, and I was tempted to take him out just cause, but he was there. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't feel bad about this one at all. And I go down there and these two brothers, you find one, the other one, and you start killing the first one, and then the other one just appears out of nowhere and supports them. So you're taking two of them down at once. And the other brother that appears has a paralyzing dagger, which is like the worst. It's because you just get paralyzed. So it's the most Mel Brooks assassination. I'm basically jumping on their double bed as they are running around from side to side, and they're just like running, because they won't go over the bed, so they're running around to one side, and then I jump over the bed and run to the other side. It was the most. I mean, whether it's the Benny Hill theme or some producer's theme or whatever we want to use from. No, I don't know why Mel Brooks comes to mind, but it just was like. And I literally was jumping on the bed while I was assassinating these two jerks, and I did it.
5 more assassins jumping on the bed.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't cheesed it that way because of that paralyzation dagger. So, but now I have the paralyzation dagger.
Oh, yeah. So, now people are really in trouble. Yeah. I think I ran into paralyzing with the Dark Brotherhood leader beneath Mournhold. I think he had a paralyzing effect on something. I mean, once I finally got my guy in there with me, it wasn't so bad because we were both working him pretty good. Although that was one of the tougher battles I've had the whole game. By the time I was fighting the Fighters Guild dude or the other heads of the guilds, I'm so overpowered. I'm level 36,
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah, you're OP for the main quest, I think, then. So
I'm OP for the game. There's nothing that can stand before me. At this point, it's like I'll have to switch to weapons that I can't use. Like, okay, I'll just use my wizard staff. Thunk, I'll hit one out of every 20 times because my blunt weapons is like an 8. Yeah, I've played 71 hours, so
oh my gosh,
it's been a bit, and you're at 24 hours.
Yeah,
for comparison, I'm three times as much. So yeah. Well, I walk on my treadmill. I'll play for a couple hours while I walk, and then
it's a game where I can totally see the hours bleeding away. I mean, because there's, we talk about it structurally a lot in the series already, and I think it's very good that we're playing this, and I'm happy that of the Elder Scrolls games, this is the one that we chose to play, because I don't think we'll really need to play another one probably ever again.
No, yeah, I think we're good.
But structurally, it's a nice.
So,
go ahead.
I was gonna say it will be nice when someday when TES 6 comes out. To play a Bethesda game again where I've had nothing to do with it whatsoever. So, I can actually approach it with fresh eyes. I mean, I guess I could have played 76, but that's such a different thing. And then, of course, the space one is coming out.
I'm kind of mixed on what's it called? Starfield. Yeah.
Starfield.
I want to be excited because I did like Fallout 3 generally. I didn't play 4, but I don't know. I guess I'll see how it goes. But, again, not to name drop Greg again, but Greg and I were talking about it today, and he had the same reaction that I had to Oblivion and Skyrim. It's like he just felt like Morrowind was so much more unique, and those seemed so kind of generic sci-fi or generic fantasy, like it was sort of going back to the sort of Tolkien-esque motifs or what have you, or I guess in Skyrim's case it's the Norse kind of overtread Norse themes, what have you, and I kind of same thing. I feel like Morrowind is problematic for sure in some key areas, which is unfortunate, but generally like it's a memorable game in a different way, and the structure of just like when I do stray from the path of whatever my next mark is, or assassination is, I'm always impressed with like there's usually something not far from where I'm standing at any given time. That if I just look over there, there's probably something, and I can kill anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour on wherever I find there, and that's just crazy in this day and age when this game came out. Like, we had GTAs or whatever, but it's quite a feat. I definitely have to say, and especially at how much how intertwined so many, like the other thing to bring in another friend, which we've talked about on this before, Reed, who really appreciated the sort of political and faction side of it, like how well mapped out that seemed to be. So I do feel like I'm missing out in that because I'm playing in such this weird linear way.
Yeah, very very specific. Yeah.
But
you're playing sort of like I played, except you're just playing one.
Yeah, and
whereas I'm playing 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's that's their main motivator, right? Or these, which you've said before, is the faction.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's their structure. That's their. And other than the sort of anecdotal stuff you find along the way, but the thing I like about the way that I'm playing those, I feel like I have, because I only have time to, and I've committed to this one chain, like it checks the role playing box quite a bit, right? Because I'm like, I've made an assassin, I've chosen to be an assassin. As you know from the first couple episodes when I was describing trying to even find the Morag Tong, like there was a whole journey there. And then once I found them, and now I'm like, every member of the guild in Vivec I'm at top, reputation with, right? So it's like I walk in there and their voice lines are reflecting that. They're like, oh, it's good to see you. Oh, I'm I'm sure everyone loves you.
I'm so honored. Yeah. Everywhere I go.
Yeah, everywhere you go, you're a hero. But it's like, it feels like in my head canon on this, I filled in a lot of blanks, of course, because it's a pretty light on this stuff kind of game. But it's like this is what I wanted, right? Like I've become one of them, and I get to go to this secret place in the bottom of this city that nobody else knows about, and I enter in, and it's like a whole, there's a whole living space down there with multiple people, and you're part of a secret club. And then I go out into the wilderness on these missions for them, and I wrote down the quote of of my own quote of, be an assassin, travel the world. And, and that's what I feel like I'm doing. It's like, there was this great stronghold quest too, where I was having to go to a Dunmer, stronghold, which is where those pylons are. I think every one of those seems to have one of those pylons, or the duo of the pylons. And so, and I couldn't find the target. So I had to systematically go through quite a big stronghold and a lot of like crazy tactics, because some of them are super tough. And then I finally find her.
That's a different game.
What?
Crazy Tactics? That's Crazy Taxi. My mistake.
Right. I was delivering something for this person. It was a knife.
Get me to the church.
Yeah, exactly. But it was just kind of neat to like, because it was multi-level, it's just a big ordeal, right? To do this one thing. And you feel like you're really infiltrating a stronghold, because but I don't really care about anyone else who's there, right? I could leave them all alone if they just left me alone, but they didn't. So I had to kill them, but
you had to kill them.
But you find, I finally find her.
I mean, you've got a writ, what are you going to do? What's a guy going to do when you've got a writ?
Don't get in my way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then she's finally, she's a necromancer. I find her on top of the stronghold, and it's this big open area, and we're fighting on this rooftop. And I'm kiting her around with my bow, because I don't want her to get close to me, and it just making her go in circles around this smaller building on the roof, and it just makes for a good story. And then I come back, and turn in the results, and I'm like, yeah, and then they reward you,
and everybody's like, yeah, you're back,
yeah.
Valesta's back, woo,
yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's something. There's something to the reputation / faction structure that it feels like, to be honest, like I'm trying to think of like Witcher and some other similar ones that I've played semi recently, where it's not really. Witcher's pretty good on the faction side of things and the politics side. Witcher, actually, the world of Witcher is very. There's a lot of politics going on, which does turn some people off. But there's something to that, feeling like these. There's sort of, I guess I'll say, intrigue, or something.
Yeah.
There's something to that, which to contrast, I have never really felt from BioWare games, right? I feel like BioWare games, and I'm not trying to throw shade or anything, but they're very pulpy and like traditional RPG stories, and I mean, there's not like unexpected things. I guess it's very tropey and very expected. I don't know what else to say, but I guess in this one it's sort of like, I'm surprised more often.
Yeah, I would say that's true of me as well. I feel the politics a lot in those, not so much in the Legion, which is a very military organization, but certainly I felt it in the Fighters Guild, and I feel it in the Mages Guild as well, where there are there are people who think the Archmage is a clown, right? That he doesn't know what he's talking about, and that he's just not a good Archmage, right? And that he's been installed by the Empire, to whatever. Like, I mean, a lot of that kind of goes over my head because I don't really care, but I do see it there, right? And that there are, that these characters have their sort of goals, and the engine is limited in presenting those to you, in terms of like, well, they don't really, they never leave where they are, right? They're always in the same place. There's some real limitations on what they're going to get up to. But it still feels like, there's some backbiting, and it's basically academia. And they're all just quibbling, over whatever, it's like, ugh.
They're all wanting to get
God, that guy's a mystic, I'm really into enchanting, man, and I mean, I don't know, it's just, it's very funny, that, to me, the degree to which they're kind of pissy with each other. So I do enjoy that.
Well, it adds,
there was one where I had to go, there was a mage who's like, I think this other mage has a book that I need, but you can't let her see you when you steal it. So I got sent from one guild house to another guild house to steal some mage's book, and bring it back. And then I got there and she opened it and she was like, "Oh yeah, this doesn't have what I need. Just take it back." So I had to go back and put it back where I had gotten it, which was extremely funny. Oh, it was really, really funny.
That is hilarious. Wow.
Yeah, it was a good moment. And it wasn't like immediate. It was like the next time I went to that person, I had to do some other stuff. Like I had to do another thing for them because they needed time to read the book. So while I'm off doing the next step in their chain, whatever that was, I come back and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I read this book, and it doesn't have what I need, and she can't know that I have it. So can you just put it back?" And I just laughed. It was so funny because
pretty bold. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, it was really funny. I mean, I had an amulet. I found this amulet. I got a cost. I basically ran into a stranger on the road. This had actually happened not too long before this. I was so glad I had it. I ran into this woman on the road and she's like, "Oh, I'm supposed to go, into town and dance tonight. I need my ring." I'm like, "Okay, that's a setup." And I dropped it and it went down into that pool down below. And I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll go look for your ring. Why not?" And it's just a setup for them to rob you after you come out of the water. You go down and the ring is there. It is extremely hard to find a very tiny ring that you can't effectively see against the background. It was quite a pixel hunt to even find the thing, but finally found it. And I climb out of the water, and it's this woman who now starts attacking me with a bow, and her buddy, who is effectively invisible to me. I cannot really see her, and it's because she's got this amulet, and it was really funny. At one point I came out of the water because I'm like, "Are you sure it's in this pool?" Like, maybe ask her again what she said, because I'm having a hard time finding it. And I actually bumped into the person who was invisible and activated them, and they're like, "Move along," or something like that. "I don't want to talk to you. I don't like you," or whatever. And all the kind of like low reputation things. So it was very amusing that when I came out, I was like, "Oh, of course, that's why that invisible person is standing here." So I don't know. There's been a lot of
it's funny that they put that she's there already, right? That they don't spawn her in. So that's like, again, this sense of a
that's not the Bethesda way. They do not spawn things. I mean, there's summoning because there's conjuring or whatever, but they don't.
But there's a permanence.
Everybody's in the world. Everything is in the world.
Yeah, it was like that guy found in Vivec City who had a mage had turned him invisible, and he wanted.
I found him as well.
Yeah.
I paid his debt.
Did you find the I assume because it's sort of you happen upon him through the Dark Brotherhood thing, but there's the thespian who wants to find a theater troupe. Have you found that?
Oh, no, I haven't found him. No, I haven't done a lot in Vivec. I've actually avoided Vivec as much as possible because I was getting lost so much. The main quest does take you there for different things, though. So
I've spent way too much time in there. I found. Did you find the serial killer? And
I did not. I have the quest.
Yeah. It's
after you mentioned that, it was like mysterious killings in Vivec.
It's pretty neat because you get to question people and you get more and more clues about where she is, and then you eventually find her. But yeah, I mean, and I think so this theater guy wants to find a theater troupe. He's by himself, and he's like, I'll leave if he's bugging this other person, and you're trying to help this person get rid of him. And he's like, I'll leave if I could find a troupe. And I think I found the solution to that. So it's just it's just a lot of little things like that are you can see the formula here that they basically have. I feel like this was the beginning of that formula, and they've repeated it over and over again. But the permanence of it and all of that sort of back and forth with the factions, and like you said, that sort of back talk to talking about the mage, archmage, and all that kind of stuff. It just gives it more of a sense of place. I feel like we talked about the Ashlanders out there too, and you come upon them, and there's like they have opinions about what's going on, there's
right.
the
They also have their own splinter groups, like that. A lot of them have additional heretics that they're like, oh yeah, a bunch of people left because we weren't aggressive enough for them, and then you run across them, of course they attack you immediately, and so it's just justifying some combat in a way, but at the same time it is rich, right? It's all motivated, That's so when I say I don't like lore, I mean I'm not going to read any of the books in a Bethesda game because I don't care like that. It doesn't speak to me in any way. But when I'm playing and these things come about and they motivate the things that are going on around me, that I actually do like and start to think about and care about. Like you can hear all the things I've talked about with the guild quests, that's what matters to me, because that I'm experiencing it and not just like reading it and getting the proper noun soup and whatever. It's like I'm just living and having this stuff, as part of the backdrop of the game. And I mean, that's a lot of what, D&D role playing can be about, right? Is you're just trying to bring those relationships to the fore and, find a way to do those things. So I will say, in some ways playing Morrowind has influenced the current little mini arc that you're on as well. Yeah. It's a little open and a little like, what order do you want to do things in? And
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
And just kind of in a pocket way that fits in nicely with the other stuff. That's
this is a DLC.
Campaign, but it's a little
happening.
Yep.
I think motivated lore that is connected to the gameplay that you're going to be playing is a good way to put it, because there's not, other than I guess the blades. I mean, that's the other weird thing is that, all of these games, again, Fallout 3 is the only one that I've played like whatever, over 100 hours in, but they all have main storylines, but it's not, like you've said before, it's not really the point per se. And so what structure do you have then? And it really does kind of end up coming down to, how do they motivate? Because they could have very easily just populated the world with things to fight, right? But why not populate the world with things to fight and then put a reason for why those things are there? And it's not really that deep. It's just something, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, it's the friction between the groups in the world and the different kinds of ways that friction can appear are what generates those conflicts, right? And so it's, if you put a bunch of groups that have different aims all out together, I mean that's original Fallout type stuff, right? I mean, there's all these different factions, they all have different ideas about the way the world should be, and that how those groups interact at the basically at their borders, motivates a lot of the gameplay and quests and all of that. And that's very true of Morrowind as well, right? I mean, there is a chosen one storyline, that is the main storyline. Yeah. But, you are, in doing that, you're rubbing up against all these people who are just going about their lives, right? Even if in this game, going about their lives means staying in the same place all the time, right? But that you, in some ways, you kind of have to do those things, because it's really a pain, when you want to sell something and the guy's not in his shop. Like they do that a little bit in later games where the shops close at a certain time and you have to come back in the morning and all of that. But, and they walk around in towns a little bit more, but one of the things we looked at with Skyrim was like a real economy, in the sense that it could be like you could do things to the towns to deplete the economy and, make traders move away and stuff like that. And we're like, this is not fun, because now I don't know where to go to sell my stuff because I did some raid on this town and now those people have left. And and it was an idea that you're like, oh, cool. But it needed a GM to bring stuff in, and it's hard to do that. Right. And to think of all the ways, because that might play out. It's, you can't just invent the things on the fly, because they're all there in these games, right? All the things are there. There's a little bit more procedural quest stuff in Skyrim than and in the later games than there were prior to that. So it was something that that they were exploring while I was working there. So that's a big part of Skyrim. Like if you want to just keep doing quests for, the fighters guild, which is not called that, but you mean they have basically MMO yeah, it's just kind of endlessly go, and it just kind of like fills out, effectively a template and like a Mad Lib. You need to go to such and such to get the thing, but you'll need the key from so and so, and it's just kind of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's a little more automatically generated, and that stuff does get spawned in, and you can tell the difference, I think.
Yeah. It's not as handcrafted. I guess I hadn't really thought about it as much as we've talked about it in this series, but that sense of permanence in these games, because I remember, for instance, in Fallout 3, there was somebody that was on patrol that I needed to talk to at some point. It could have been the Brotherhood of Steel or something, and
maybe the Rangers.
Maybe, yeah. And my impression when I finally found him and then kind of followed him for a while or whatever was that he's kind of always on patrol. Like he's just on patrol.
Yeah.
He's just out there. He's like always
out there patrolling.
Like he was right where, right where he was supposed to be in a way. And I could see him from far away, just kind of like walking on the street, or on the trail. And I was like, wow, I found this guy, and there's just, I don't know, something, and that's not the structure of a lot of these games. Even I feel like The Witcher doesn't do that to that degree. But yeah, something else. And you were saying about sort of like there's the main storyline, the Nerevarine or whatever, and all that Chosen One stuff. Like I've interacted with that some based on a little bit of some of the side stuff that I've done. And it's sort of come up a little bit with the Morag Tong, but for most of the time, I really haven't. Like once I become master, I feel like I could stop playing the game, and I feel like I will have, accomplished
a complete experience. Yeah. So no, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think that any of the quest lines could feel that way. Like, it's a sort of game that you could like take off the shelf every year. Be like, what?
Yeah.
I'm going to spend 20 hours and I'm going to do this quest line. I know that there are all these quest lines. I'm going to go find the Legion and I'm going to do the Legion stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to join the Imperial cult, and I'm going to go beg for alms and find flowers and, go and
it's an early MMO, really. Like
the pilgrims, Yeah. And you could just do that. You could just, you could go and just do those sort of individual things, and they would be rewarding in and of their own right. And each time you had an adventure in Morrowind, I think, it would be your adventure. If you were just following the quest lines exactly, they'd maybe be kind of less rich, but you'd still rub up against all the other stuff, and you'd kind of over time accrue this deeper understanding of the place, and just kind of keep coming back and doing, this time I'm going to do this with this, I'm going to switch and be this kind of thing, and I think that's certainly interesting. And, there are people who played this game multiple times. So I'm not the sort of person who will do that probably, but because I'm enjoying this playthrough. But once I'm done, I'm going to be done.
Yeah, you are milking it. I mean, you're wringing the water out of this sucker for sure, and that's definitely. I mean, that's how I typically play these for sure. Is I go deep and don't come back. But yeah. Well,
all right. So we're at 53 minutes. We probably have time for one or two emails at most. These were sent, of course, to devgameclub@gmail.com. Why don't you take the first one? I don't even remember who it's from. I know it's long.
From Sam. Yeah.
It is from Sam. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We seem to still have plenty to talk about with this game as usual. So yeah, more mail to come. I don't think we'll finish these, but Morrowind and The Witcher 3. Oh, interesting. From Sam. Hi guys. Since you were talking about the guild requirements to complete the game in Morrowind, I'm sure that you are not required to complete any guild work to do the main quest. However, I feel the designers expected you to do at least one, as it's an easy source of equipment, experience, supplies in the early game. It's interesting that you brought up Witcher 3 because an unusual thing happened to me in that game. Sometimes when playing something I just want to be done with it, and I beeline for the ending. I did this in Witcher 3, had a climactic moment leading up to what I was sure was the end game. I know what he's talking about, or what they're talking about. And that's when I found out that many of the optional side quests I'd been skipping were actually mandatory to complete the game. Looking at a walkthrough, it looked like I needed to do about 10 additional hours of content before I could progress the main plot. I was so annoyed that I ended up watching the end game on YouTube and never went back. Interestingly, when I talk about this online, most people have no idea. The side quests in the game are so good that very few people skip them. I'll comment on this later. Back on Morrowind, I was very excited about this game on release. It was the first game I played that presented the freedom to play any way you wanted. You could just do whatever you felt like in the game and you would level up. I was all in and decided to focus on alchemy and mercantile skills. Wow, that's insane. I don't know why that's crazy to me, but that's awesome. But this was actually a problem. In Morrowind, enemies can scale up based on your level, and if you are if you were leveling without increasing your endurance, then you become incapable in combat. Even though Skyrim is criticized for dumbing down the leveling system, I vastly prefer it there because the dream I was promised in Morrowind is finally a reality. I recommend buying level ups in an endurance increasing skill before resting in Morrowind to avoid this problem. Okay, interesting. There's a silver lining to my Morrowind choice, though. It's possible to mix a potion of intelligence, drink that potion, and then mix an even stronger one. There are no diminishing returns, and so you can mix amazing potions that make you invisible, can one-shot anything, sell for insane amounts of money, and even fly through the air at speeds of sound. Figuring this out on my own is one of my favorite memories from gaming. One other story, if you have time, this is his last paragraph. At one point, I found myself falling toward the ground at a lethal speed with no good quick save to avoid this fate. I figured out I could... Wait, what am I about to read? I figured out I could mix a potion of levitation and drink it right before impact and stay alive. What a great game. There's some real fun to be had in these old unbalanced, quote unquote, single player games that is sometimes lacking today. Levitation is completely removed by the time we hit Skyrim, presumably because it trivializes so many things. Sam. He just ends Sam.
Yep,
oh
Sam.
My goodness. What is happening?
I know, it's wild.
The fact that alchemy is that, I mean, I'm not surprised because I did start dabbling with it and it just seems so like Sam, if I really wanted to get into alchemy, I should have started from the beginning and just focused on it. I just can't pick it up now. It's too much. But I'm not surprised that you can go so far with it where you can just mix potions while falling to your death and save yourself. Oh my!
Yeah, I mean, you gotta ask, like, how did he get up that high?
Yeah.
You know, it's just what is going on here.
Well, this game is so buggy too. Like, I could imagine being up high and then like sort of falling, like physics falling bug or something. I don't know.
But and you had a thought about The Witcher 3 in there. I don't know the game, so I thought.
Well, he's right in that.
With you.
So one of the reasons I think the side quests, quote unquote side quests in that game, are so beloved is that they're very very well written. They're very integrated into the main story, and I didn't remember this until he put it in the mail, but I did recall finding out after the fact that a lot of them are essentially required. So they seem optional because you can do them in any order, but they're not obviously optional to finish the game. And so because of the way I play, because I'm such a completionist, I obviously didn't run into what he ran into. And I think anyone who does most of the stuff will also find that. But yeah, to his point, if you're beelining at some point, like the Red Baron is an example. Not Red Baron.
The Bloody Baron.
Bloody Baron. Red Baron. The Bloody Baron is the one that I think is the example that a lot of people use because it's pretty important story to the main quest. You just don't know it at the time. And that's kind of one of the brilliant pieces of writing in the game because you're like, what is this all about? And this is interesting. Oh, that's cool. And then later you find out, oh crap, that's that person, in the end game. Yeah. And so it's really neat, but I don't think you have to do the Bloody Baron. If you could go pretty far without doing it, and then I, as Sam says, so I didn't run into that because I freaking do everything. So, and in fact, I hold off on the main storyline until I can,
me too,
as far as possible, and then I do it. So, yeah.
All right, let me hit a quick one here. It's relatively short, and it touches on some same stuff as Sam, so it's a good pairing. It's hi guys. Morrowind is such a hugely, is a hugely formative game for me and my brother, and it's so much fun to hear your own misadventures in this beautifully broken game. I know the road between Balmora and Fort Moonmoth like the back of my hand, and getting lost in Vivec may as well be a Vardenfell rite of passage. We had the same mixture of horror, laughter, and curiosity when the unfortunate magician fell out of the sky, but that event is what defined our entire journey through the game. We took it upon ourselves to carry on his mad experiment and travel the land far and wide, trying to concoct a custom spell that allowed its user to bound across the continent in huge leaps. Going up was easy. Coming back down had some bugs to iron out. We unearthed obscure books and tracked down hidden teachers. We tried fortifying acrobatics and casting levitation. We searched the bogs for rare herbs and experimented with alchemical potions. And of course, we had countless adventures across countless hours along the way. No single element in Morrowind holds up to much scrutiny on its own, but I find that the overarching dedication to agency and systemic exploration gives it a feeling of limitless freedom even to this day. Did we ever create the perfect travel spell? Nope. But we never finished the main quest either. So who's counting? Steven. So
he makes a really good point that I feel like we haven't even mentioned in that exact way before in the series is I think Bethesda, especially the Elder Scroll games, but all of their games are really sum of parts games. Like they are the definition of you really shouldn't scrutinize any individual piece. It is it is all about clashing them together, and that's where the magic lies.
They are a grotty fish stew, as one former guest put it. So it's a lot of chunks of smelly fish in there, but it works somehow. And it's a pleasure, honestly, to play a Bethesda game again, because I haven't, like I've mentioned, since I left, and it's really, really fun to dive into this thing, and obviously it's kind of hooking me. I've played 3 times as much as you have, and I'm like, maybe I could fit in the Assassin's Quest line.
Well, I mean, you're so powerful, like you're right. All you have to do is
I could go through it. Well, the thing is though, I have to level up their skills. Yeah. That's part of the requirements for advancing in the guild. That's what takes a long time. Is like, oh, now I've got to be good at like short blades and light armor and I don't know, whatever else, sneak, those sorts of things. I am like, those are all like single digit things for me, right? Acrobatics is a little bit higher, but not very high. It's like in
light
the
armor
30s maybe. Yeah, light armor. But I've used heavy armor the whole game.
Can't you buy your way up pretty far though?
You can. It depends, actually. I was trying to buy my mysticism up for, I think, for the cult. Yeah, the temple quest line. And it's called the Imperial Cult, which is it's called the temple, in the interface, but it's called the Imperial Cult in the conversations and stuff. But one of theirs is mysticism, which I've been using. That's recall. I have that and mark. And so I've got that a little bit. It's one of my minor skills, I think. So it's I get leveling credit for it as well, but I haven't really leveled it. And I got up. I needed it to be level 35, and I got up to level 34, and the person wouldn't train me anymore. I'm like, dang it! Like I don't use that very much. So like, And I'm not sure what other stuff is in that. Like, those are the only 2 spells I have in it. Like, I don't even know what else.
Oh, it's just, I feel like there's something else I have and I forget. Yeah, I don't remember.
So, I mean, I might go and see if I can find a spell that's a little more useful for that, but, or I might just, like, mark myself in Balmora, walk out or recall myself in Balmora, walk out of town, and mark and just go back and forth, just like walk back out of town, summon a ghost to get my mana back, and then cast it again, and just like, all right, I can just do this for half an hour. You know me, I'm the guy who spent 3 hours, something like that, with Kingdom Hearts hard mode, leveling up on the beach. So, I can do it. I can put in the time.
That's something to be proud of.
Oh, no. Oh, I wouldn't say that at all.
You have it in your capability, though. Yeah, I get it. That's skill. The skill prerequisite is a weird, interesting way for them to gate that stuff. Yeah, because it basically is going to inherently add. Yeah, it's going to always make every chain, because the chains are the guilds are different enough in skills. I'm sure the matrix. I can see the matrix in my head, not that matrix, but
I got
the sheet matrix. Where they didn't want those to cross over, right? So you couldn't. It makes it hard to easily do more than one. It's going to be like another 10 hours for you to do the assassins.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, even though you can kill the marks fast enough. Interesting.
Yeah. Yep. It's a whole thing. Yeah. So. Anyway, those were sent, of course, to devgameclub@gmail.com. We appreciate them so
Great
much.
Stories.
Thanks, Sam and
Great
Steven.
stories.
Yeah, good times. You can find us on the web at devgameclub or on Twitter at devgameclub, where you can also find my co-host at
Tim Longo Jr. with the JR at the end,
who is going to be briefly twitching. He has been playing Resident Evil Village, and I hear he has 2 left, for those who know what that means, which means he's well ahead of me because I've been putting in my time on Morrowind. Yeah. That's where my time has been going. I haven't really played much else in the last couple of weeks. So you can check him out there. I actually streamed a little bit this past weekend. I did 3.5 hours of Morrowind Saturday night at twitch.tv/Brett Duville. So you can check me out too if you care to. Our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton, commissioned by friend of the cast Aaron Evers, and our logo is by Mark Garcia. Have fun finishing the Guild Quest line this week, and good night.
Good night.